Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to welcome everyone to my riding of Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes. First, I want to thank you, Premier Ford, for being here today to make this exciting announcement and for always having the backs of the people that I represent. I'm also pleased to welcome Ontario Solicitor General, the Honourable Michael Kerzner, back to our community. Minister, it was great to join you this morning visiting the brave men and women of the Brockville Fire Department and the Brockville Police Service. These are the first responders who put their lives on the line every single day to keep our residents safe. I appreciate you making time to meet with these frontline heroes whenever you're in my riding. Folks, with us today as well is Ontario's Minister of Public and Business Service Delivery and Procurement, the Honourable Stephen Crawford. I'm so very pleased to have you here, Minister, and I look forward to our meeting and our tour later this afternoon. We're also joined today by two great mayors. First, our host mayor, Brant Burrow of the Township of Elizabethtown-Kittley, and the City of Brockville Mayor, Matt Wren. Your worships, welcome. Thank you for being here, and also thank you for your tremendous leadership in our municipalities. As the local MPP, the new Brockville Correctional Complex and the St. Lawrence Valley Correctional and Treatment Centre expansion is a huge priority project for me, and I couldn't be happier that work has started here on the site. Today's announcement is another exciting step forward in replacing the 184-year-old Brockville Jail and providing our outstanding correctional workers with the modern facility that they deserve. Again, thanks to you, Premier, and to ministers for being here today and for your ongoing support and commitment to this project. Now I'd like to take this opportunity to call on Mayor Brant Burrow to say a few words.
Well, welcome everybody. Welcome, Premier. Thank you for coming here today for an important announcement, and thanks to the ministers for being here, other distinguished guests, and of course our own MPP, who's a bit of a political animal. I don't know when the man ever gets a chance to sleep. Just before I give a comment, I want to share a little anecdote with you. It'll only take a moment, but for those who have never had the privilege of serving in public office, it can be a pretty stressful job, but there are lighthearted moments that come along as well. And as I stand here today with regards to this particular announcement, what comes to mind instantly is the last time the Premier visited this site for an announcement related to this project. The then Mayor Brockville at the time was ahead of me in the speaking order, and he got up to the podium and he welcomed everybody to the City of Brockville. And then I got up afterwards and gave everybody a little bit of a geography lesson and explained that the City of Brockville is on the other side of the street where all the street lights are, and we're standing here in the Township of Elizabethtown-Kittley. So I welcomed everybody to the Township, and when I returned to the lineup, Mayor Baker leaned over to me and he said, you know, as I was walking back from the podium, I thought to myself, I wonder if I'm going to get away with that. And then you started to speak, and I thought, nope, I'm not going to get away with that. So that's one of those things that just sort of sticks in my mind. So there's a little geography lesson for the region. But we're very excited and quite honoured to have the Premier here. Very excited about the announcement today that we're at this significant milestone in the history of this project. Not only will it provide a modern complex that's needed in the correctional sector, but for a region such as ours, the good-paying jobs that this project is going to represent and sustain once it's built are going to pay into not only the township economy but the regional economy. And so it's very, very important to us that we have those types of anchor projects in our region supporting what we do in this area. And so I just want to make sure everybody knows that's not gone unnoticed, and we do appreciate it very, very much. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce now the Honourable Minister, Solicitor General, Michael Kerzner, to share a few words with us.
Thank you,
Minister.
Mayor.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Good morning, mayors, and my great friend, our House Leader, Steve Clark. Our government's promise to protect Ontario is a constancy without precedent. It means no matter what, our inherent right to live safely in our own neighbourhoods will always be fulfilled. It's a promise to make sure that we can see our kids off to school and check in on our seniors, to go to work, shop, play, and worship safely. And it's a promise to hold criminals accountable for their actions. As Solicitor General, I'm proud to be part of a government Premier Ford that is undeniably and unapologetically tough on crime. Not only do Ontarians know it, but all of Canada knows it as well. You see, we're not afraid of the task in front of us, fighting crime wherever or whatever it is, combating the flow of illegal guns, stopping violent home invasions and auto theft, human trafficking, other form of criminality for that matter. No one will ever see us on the sidelines. And we have responded with unprecedented investments in our public safety, in our OPP, municipal and First Nations police services, more boots on the ground, more technology and resources, and an attitude and tone never seen before. And today, here in Brockville, our vision continues to unfold. We are implementing our vision with strategy, with transparency, and with resolve. And part of that vision is recognizing that for the safety of the public, offenders, particularly repeat and violent offenders, belong in one place, behind bars and in jail. And that's why since 2018, our government, led by the Premier, has implemented tough-on-crime legislation on bail reform and pushed our federal partners hard to do their part. We promised we would always find room to keep dangerous criminals locked up. And we've been transparent about exactly where we are building more capacity, something no other government ever did before. We made a commitment, a $3 billion commitment, to build new facilities, deliver major upgrades to our existing correctional infrastructure, and that's just the asked my Ministry of the Solicitor General to expand and optimize space in our existing facilities, and this is already yielding great results. And we're hiring and training thousands of new correctional officers and probation and parole officers. We're leaving no stone unturned, going so far as to see how many of the 7 jails closed by the Ontario Liberal government can be reopened. And stay tuned. We said we would add over 1,000 new beds into the system soon, and we're delivering. At the Thunder Bay brand new correctional centre to be completed on time later this year, over 340 beds with more to come, over 110 beds brought back online in London at the Elgin Middlesex Detention Centre. We're reopening, and we've almost completed the reopening of the Ontario Correctional Institute, OCI, over 220 beds brought back online. We're reopening this year over 300 beds at the Toronto South Detention Centre, adding over 300 new spaces in brand new modular builds already announced. We promised we would add over 1,000 beds to the system, and we are delivering. But it's not just about bricks and mortar. It's also about the brave men and women who work hard every day all over our province to keep us safe. Their welfare is top of mind, and we will not stop in making sure that they have the supports, the resources, and the programs available to them when they need it. You see, they redefine a phrase that we should never take for granted: service over self. And the flash they wear on the side of their uniforms represents respect and the continuity of our public safety and the identity and love of our province, sacred through the generations. Our commitment, our promise, and our transparency and our resolve will be absolute and constant, because in this country and province, leadership matters. We know we have serious problems to solve, and we need leaders to stand up and to tell us not always what we want to hear, but what we need to hear. And that's our Premier, the Honourable Doug Ford. Premier, the podium is yours. Thank you. Merci. Miigwech.
Thanks. Well, first of all, I want to say hello to everyone and thank you, Minister Kerzner and Minister Crawford, and of course the local champion, Steve Clark. We call him Clarky. And I was talking to the mayor. I want to welcome both mayors here as well, and Superintendent Jennifer Bicel. But they showed me a list, and this is all due to Steve Clark. and it follows everything from job creation to infrastructure to health to community and safety and policing and education. I can tell you folks, you're well represented with our great MPP Steve Clark and the leader of our entire caucus as well down at Queen's Park. But before I start, I want to thank our correctional services folks here. You know, I always say you have the toughest job out of anyone. I don't even know how you do it, day in and day out, just supporting the correctional services system. And I couldn't do your job, to be very frank. So thank you for everything you do day in and day out. Since Trump's tariffs take direct aim at the Canadian businesses and workers, our government has a plan to protect Ontario. We're building a province that is more competitive, more resilient, and more self-reliant, so we can stand up to tariffs, economic uncertainty, and whatever else comes our way. Across Ontario, we're cutting red tape to a tune of $1.2 billion, removing duplicative permits and reporting requirements, streamlining approvals, and keeping taxes and fees low. You know, folks, I always say keeping taxes and fees low. Our family's been in politics for 3 decades, 3 generations. No government, federally, municipally, provincially, have never reduced taxes. We've never raised a tax. We will never, ever raise a tax. We have a simple philosophy. Put money into people's pockets, and they're going to do things they might otherwise not be able to do. Maybe go out for dinner. Maybe put a little renovation on. Buy your kids clothes, rather than the government constantly gouging you. Same goes for businesses. You know, we've reduced the cost of doing business here by over $12 billion and 1.8 million working hours every year. That is being reinvested into more jobs and bigger paychecks. And if you put money into companies' pockets, I know what they do. They invest, number one, in their people, and then number two, invest into technology, and then the infrastructure. They might buy new equipment, and that will create more opportunities and more jobs. We're breaking down internal trade barriers, building new pipelines, rail lines, airports, and seaports, so we can find new trading partners and rely less on old ones. And we're powering economic growth by building the future of nuclear energy, including the first small modular reactors in the G7. We're leading the world when it comes to small modular reactors, and the first large-scale nuclear facilities in decades, along with the largest battery storage project in Canada, actually just down the road from here in Edwardsburg, Cardinal. And I think you were there with us. That was a big site there. Our government is also doubling down on our more than $223 billion plan to build, which is the largest plan of its kind in Canadian history, so we can create jobs, grow Ontario's economy, and invest in world-class services that workers and families depend on. Here in Leeds Grenville, we're investing over $24 million through our municipal housing infrastructure program to upgrade the Canteen Park main pumping station and support the construction of new homes across the region. We've invested $88 million to build 3 new schools and expand 2 others. And we're making travel in Eastern Ontario faster and safer by upgrading Highway 401 between Melroy Town and Brockville, creating good-paying construction jobs through resurfacing work, bridge repairs, and ramp upgrades. Our plan to protect Ontario includes cracking down on violent criminals who are preying on the hard-working people of this province. Under the leadership of Minister Kerzner and Minister Downey, we are passing new tough-on-crime legislation, hiring more judges, and making targeted investments in our police services. But we can't do it alone. We need the federal government to follow through with their promise to reform Canada's broken bail system and keep repeat offenders behind bars. My message to the federal government: enough has gone by, enough time has gone by. Stop dilly-dallying and let's start moving forward on the bail reform. We also need to make sure that we're putting the rights of victims ahead of criminals. You know, you always hear about charter this, charter that, charter rights for criminals. How about the charter rights for the victims once and for all? I think I'll keel over if I ever hear one of the judges out there say they're going to have charter rights for the victims that carry these crimes for a lifetime, while these criminals are out on the streets repeating and repeating and repeating offenses. That's why last week we wrote to the federal government asking them to legalize the use of pepper spray for self-defense. It's a common sense way to help people, especially women in vulnerable situations, to protect themselves and their family. Let's say a woman's leaving a job at night and walking home. She needs something to defend herself. You know, after all these crazy lunatics are running around because our courts are letting these people out on bail. Folks, they don't get out on bail once, not twice, not 3 times, 4 times, and 5 times, just to repeat the offenses. You know, we've all lived here our whole lives. Did we ever see this 10 years ago? 15 years ago? No, we've never seen this. We've seen it starting about 5 years ago. It's running rampant across Ontario, and we're going to put an end to it. We're also pushing for the federal government to collect DNA from people arrested for serious sexual offenses to speed up investigations and bring criminals to justice. I find it ironic that these criminals get arrested, first thing that happens, they get their fingerprints. Why are we not taking DNA samples from them immediately? So I'm going to be all over the federal government on those 2 issues about pepper spray and making sure we take DNA samples off every single person. As we crack down on criminals, we're investing in our jails to ensure not having enough space is never an excuse to grant offenders an early release. And I heard the judges as well. I'm not pounding on judges because there's a lot of great judges, but there's some terrible ones out there. Bleeding heart judges that constantly let people out. And they always use an excuse. Well, it may not be safe in this one jail, or you know, it's overcrowded. So we're going to let these criminals go out and have a merry old time, and let's just keep reoffending. Across the province, we're building new jails and redeveloping existing ones to increase capacity now and for the long term. As a result of our investments, Ontario is on track to add over 1,400 new beds to our capacity, a number that we're going to increase by hundreds more in the coming months. Which brings us for today's announcement that we move forward on work to start building the new Brockville Correctional Centre and expand the St. Lawrence Valley Correctional and Treatment Centre, issuing a request for qualifications on this project, which will include an additional 20 beds compared to what it was previously announced, bringing the grand total to 295 beds. The expanded capacity in Brockville will lead to more than 400 additional jobs for correctional service officers. You know, that's what I love. 400 additional people are going to bring home a paycheck, which they might otherwise not be able to have. And they're going to have a great health plan. They're going to have a good pension, because I love our correctional service officers. They're absolute champions. To complement the more than 3,200 staff we have hired to strengthen Ontario's correction system to date. We know we need to do more to fix a broken bail system and protect our province. That's why we're exploring new measures to bring our bail system out into the open by live streaming bail hearings. I'm going to repeat that. We're going to start live streaming bail hearings, which right now are not accessible to the public except for people who are there in person. Right now, when bail is granted to a violent offender, there is no written justification provided. The judge just says, okay, see you later, Charlie. We'll see you next week. We need to change that to ensure clear reasoning is provided with greater consistency in decisions and easier for public to review. Folks, I get held accountable every second. It's about time now our judges are going to be held accountable. Everyone is held accountable, including our judges. To achieve this, we need to create an anonymous regional dashboard to identify biased, promote accountability, and restore public confidence. I look forward to discussing these changes with Ministers Kerzner and Downey in the coming weeks, so we can crack down on repeat violent offenders and keep them where they belong, and that's behind bars. In the meantime, we're going to keep investing to protect our communities, protect our workers and families across Ontario. Thank you, and may God bless the people of Ontario.
We will now take questions from the media. Media present can make their way to the media microphone to ask their question. As a friendly reminder, the format is one question and one follow-up. Please state your name and your outlet before your question.
Hello, Premier Ford.
Hi.
John Lawless with the Brockville Recorder and Times.
Hi.
My question is there an estimated opening date of this facility here in Brockville?
I'd have to pass that over to Minister Kerzner after we go out for RFQ, RFP.
Yep, hi, good morning. We're going to go out, as the Premier said, for the RFP and RFQ, and then we're going to get moving. But we're not waiting, and that's why I said as part of my remarks, and the Premier spoke about it as well, that we have never had any such transparency ever in any government that has let you know to the bed where new spaces are opening, and we're proud of it. So we're going to get this project moving, and I know our House Leader will tell us when we can break the ground, but it's happening soon. We're going to go through the RFQ, RFP, and we're getting going.
Thank you. And for my follow-up, there was discussion at a nearby municipality in Kemptville about a jail coming. I was just wondering what the status of that project may be, if it is still going forward at all.
Well, thank you. The project is 100% moving forward. We speak to Mayor Peckford, and I know our House Leader speaks to her on a regular basis. That project is 100% moving forward, and what we're also doing is looking at how we can optimize the size of it within the footprint of land that we have. So we're going to be speaking to the municipality. That project is moving forward.
Thank you very much.
Premier Ford, Max Paris, CBC News. What do you make of the idea of giving Don Cherry the Order of Canada, given how upset many French Canadians seem to be about the idea?
Well, you know something, Don Cherry is an icon, and he has helped so many communities. And his area, obviously, is in sport, in hockey. He's so loved, and it's well overdue. But I propose this to MLC. Come to Scotiabank and let Don Cherry, and he's elderly right now, but let him drop the puck. The roof would come off Scotiabank. People love him. They would go absolutely wild. He's the most patriotic Canadian I've ever seen. So he's a champion, and I have overwhelming support for him getting the Order of Ontario. Matter of fact, he should get the Order of Canada. That's what he should be getting.
Okay, as my follow, I guess, how does exempting yourself and your cabinet from the Freedom of Information laws make your government more transparent and accountable?
What we're doing is we're just going along. It's 40-year-old legislation that's been antiquated, and we aren't doing anything new. What we're doing is just doing exactly what the federal government is doing and what the other provinces are doing. If it's good for, I don't know, Saskatchewan, if it's good for Quebec, if it's good for other provinces, it's good for the federal government, then we need to update it. 40-year-old legislation, cell phones weren't around, computers weren't around, and so we're just following in order with the rest of the federal government and the provinces.
Premier Ford, Dan Tackman with CBC out of Kingston. I wanted to get your perspective on Alto. A lot of resistance here in Eastern Ontario, including MPP Clark standing by today to the southern route. I wondered if you have a position on where you'd like to see this high-speed rail route across your province, and if you're at all open to the suggestion from Kingston and some other regions about following the 401 corridor.
You know, I agree 100%. Follow the 401 corridor. Don't start taking farmers' lands and everything else out. Just follow the 401 corridor. It makes sense. And maybe make a stop in Kingston, because it's a little too weighted on the other side of the border. They have a few stops, but we need a couple more stops here in Ontario. But I said the exact same thing. Follow the 401 corridor. Simple.
I wanted to ask you about harm reduction as well. Harm reduction workers say the closure of the remaining safe consumption sites or supervised consumption sites will result in more people dying, and that the heart hubs aren't a good substitute. How do you justify closing these last few sites?
Well, first of all, that is not factual whatsoever. A study came out for the University of Alberta. Actually, it doesn't cause more problems. It helps people. And Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we did it here in Brockville, they told me there's over 1,200, 1,300 visits so far helping people. The only difference is we aren't encouraging handing out needles and drugs, and there's no community that wants it. We're putting an investment of over $550 million in heart hubs that are going to help people. Get them proper shelter, get them the support they need, get them employment if they need. It's working. What I don't believe in sticking these injection sites in the middle of a community, down the street from a school, needles are all over the place. It's like giving an alcoholic a card for the LCBO and saying, okay, go in there and go to town. I'm passionate about this, by the way. And that's why I approved over 500, almost more than $500 million. I don't want to hurt these people. I want to help them. I want them to be productive. Addiction's terrible. It affects families. And you talk to any family member from an addict, and they're going to say, get them help. And that's exactly what we're doing. No government has invested more in supporting people with addiction than what we have. We're going to continue doing this. We're getting rid of funding for injection sites that they encourage people, giving them needles and everything else. The federal government giving them free drugs, like unheard of. So we're going to support people, and it's working. And please do me a favor, read the article from the University of Alberta. It was in the National Post. What they're saying, it increases. It doesn't actually. If anything, it decreases.
Hi, Premier. Laura Stone, Globe and Mail.
Hi, Laura.
Hey. Back to the FOI issue.
Yes.
Why can't Ontario be more transparent than these other places you're mentioning? And you're making this retroactive. So you're trying to. So can you address this complaint that you are trying to block the release of your cell phone records, and why are you trying to hide them?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'll get to my cell phone records. First, why isn't anyone jumping up and down about the federal government, Laura? You live in Ottawa. Go knock on their door and say, why is the province of Ontario duplicating what you have and the rest of the provinces? We aren't just inventing this. We aren't the first out of the gate. We're antiquated. We're 40 years old. As for my cell phone, Laura, I would like to ask the people, I'm behind 6,643 messages. People call me 1,000 people a day on very personal issues. There's confidentiality. I was sworn to confidentiality for constituents, and I'm not going to release personal confidential information about people's lives. That's what it comes down to. And there's cabinet confidentiality. If you look at the Supreme Court rulings, it's about protecting cabinet confidentiality with the Ontario Public Service. But I have an idea. Judge me or judge our party on decisions, not on conversations that we have in a cabinet office or conversations that people trust that you are not going to release. Just imagine if I released personal, and it's very personal, a lot of health stuff and everything, every personal problem people have, they call me. I feel like a psychologist every day, trying to solve everyone's personal issues. That is not good to release it. Matter of fact, I learned this back at City Hall days, and I'm sure my colleagues know this. When you leave office, you have to, even if the same party gets reelected and they go in there, you have to destroy every bit of information that you have on your constituents. And it's going to start all over again with the new MPP or the new city council. That's the way it works. There has to be confidentiality. People have to be reassured when they text me, it's going to be confidential, and it will be confidential.
Okay, thank you for that. I was hoping to ask Solicitor General Kerzner a question about Project Ontario. We haven't heard, Project Ontario, Project South. Yeah. We haven't heard anything from you in person on this. You talked about respecting people in uniform. What are you doing to protect those correctional officers? We know there was an attempted hit on one of them. Are you going to move on blocking access to their license plates, blocking access to the parking lots? What are you doing for those guards and people who work in the jails?
Well, thank you, Laura. Firstly, people have said that I haven't been available to answer any questions. In fact, it's not so. I've been before the media at 2 news conferences after the synagogue shootings in Toronto in the last 2 weeks. Nobody asked me a question about that. As you know, Laura, this is being investigated by a number of police services, and also the Inspector General is doing his investigation. So this is going forward. We're going to wait to see what comes out. We take this matter as a provincial government very seriously. But, you know, Laura, we're here today because this is another reaffirmation as to how we keep Ontario safe, by putting more money into corrections and by sending a message that if anybody thinks they can break the law, but we don't have room for them, we do. We've got lots of room for those people that break the law.
What are you doing to protect the guards? What are you doing? Next question.
Premier, thank you for coming to Brockville.
Let me do my very best. I'll do anything I can. I always say I have many jobs. My number one job is to protect communities, the citizens, their jobs, their businesses. But I will do anything to protect our correctional services officers, our police officers, our firefighters, our paramedics, our first responders, and whatever it takes, I'll do. Simple as that. And if you want to attack one of our correctional services officers or our police, you're going to pay a real penalty, a real penalty. Like they need, these guys who go after our officers, they deserve to sit in the hole for God knows 3 years. Maybe the message will get out. How dare you try to go after one of our correctional service officers? Of zero tolerance. So it's up to the judges to, again, as this goes in front of the courts, to put down the hardest, sentence they possibly can. And I can assure the people behind me, I have your backs. I'll always have your backs. And I'll do anything to protect you.
Good. Premier, my name is John Fennick. I'm a reporter with the Westport Review-Mirror. Can you just comment on rehabilitation services that will be part of this correction facility? Will there actually be rehabilitation services in place and support to change the behavior when inmates are released?
Yeah, well, Michael, you want to handle that?
Well, I also, by the way, want to echo the Premier's remarks on standing with our correctional officers. These are people that work hard every single day, and as Solicitor General, I've traveled the province extensively, and I visited our facilities. I go in there, I meet with our local union representatives and the management, and I say to them, as a government, we will always have your backs. As we reimagine what this correctional complex will look like, it will represent, and as we see when we're building new correctional complexes, it represents a correctional system for tomorrow, so that we have all of the services embedded into the building, the best health care possible within the system, to have other treatment programs, to have our chaplaincy program there as well. So we will get back to you on more information, but again, how we re-envision a correctional complex for tomorrow is not how it was envisioned as the House Leader said in the 1840s. This is now in 2026.
Thank you, sir. Just one quick follow-up. I drove down from Perth and filled up my truck. I pretty well had to take a mortgage out on my house to do that.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. Sir, could you comment on the U.S. and Iran war, and specifically what your thoughts are when the Strait of Hormuz might be opened and gas prices could fall? Is there an end game for you in this?
Well, first of all, I share your sentiment because I fill up my car. When I escape from my OPP, I fill it up and away I go. It was $1.67 last night. It's outrageous. Do you know what solves all our problems? Let's start getting a pipeline built across our country. Let's bring it down to Sarnia. Let's get the pipeline over to the Irving refinery in New Brunswick. That would relieve it. Right now, we're relying on people from around the world, and some of those people don't even like us. But I think the U.S. and Israel are doing the right thing. The Iranian regime has killed tens of thousands of their own people, innocent people, and they're just a bunch of tyrants as far as I'm concerned. And we have to bring peace to the Middle East, and I encourage them to keep going. because people want them. The 90 million people want freedom. We had a rally, or I didn't, they did, I showed up. There's over 350,000 Iranians that are there supporting freedom, because their people are under siege and being, the heinous stories that I've heard too. They have to get rid of them and get rid of the leadership as quickly as possible and have democratic elected leaders.
Thank you, Harper Cody with NBC Media News here in Brockville. Premier Ford, what do you say to the local residents here who, with this expansion, may be concerned about even more criminals coming from out of town being transported here to Brockville? Just what do you say to those concerns that local residents may have here?
Well, I have confidence in our correctional services officers. I have confidence in our OPP and our Brockville Police and everyone else, and that we're going to build a facility that no one's going to escape from. And that's what I say. We won't spare a penny to make sure that happens.
One quick follow-up for you. Just what does the continued plan look like right now to cut down on our long wait times in our emergency rooms in our local hospitals, Premier?
Well, what we've done, number one, we've invested, we're investing over $60 billion in 50 sites across the province. You're either getting a new hospital or you're getting an addition to the hospital. We've registered and hired over 20,000 doctors since we've been in office, over 100,000 nurses. We're paying for medical, we're actually building medical schools, first time in decades. We're paying for the education for doctors. We're also paying for nurses' education if they work in rural areas around the province that are needed. But we're spending approximately, I believe it's about $2.4 billion with the leadership, Dr. Jane Philpott, and our great minister, Minister Sylvia Jones, that's heading everything up. We're connecting patients to physicians. We've already connected over 350,000, but we'll have this wrapped up in another 3.5 years, that every single person out there will be connected to a family health team. And we're building, by the way, we're building out family health teams around the province as well. Folks, this just didn't happen overnight. When I came into office, our population was 14 million. And in a matter of 8 years, next thing you know, we're 16.3 million. It's like throwing 2 million plus into an area and say, okay, let's catch up now. And we're going full steam. And the amount of money we're spending in healthcare is staggering. Unprecedented. When I came into office, it was $60 billion. We're up over $93 billion, heading towards $100 billion. We're working with CEOs of hospitals and docs and healthcare workers to come up with more efficient ways to delivering healthcare, technology, AI as well. So there's better ways of delivering. It's continuous improvement, but we are pouring money into healthcare like this province, this country's never seen, actually.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, hi, Premier. I'm Kevin Inglis with the Brockvillist here in Brockville.
Hi, Kevin.
So, Premier, I just wanted to go back to the updated Freedom of Information laws. You said that modernizing the freedom of information process means bringing Ontario in line with the federal government and other provinces. My question is, if this modernization will only make it harder for normal people to access government records in Ontario, should the province not be aiming to modernize its laws while retaining, if not improving, citizens' access to information to be a positive standout in Canada?
Oh, I've been taking all the questions, Steve, over to you. He's heading it up. But again, we aren't going to be antiquated 40 years old legislation. We're following the federal government. We're following the other provinces. Folks, this isn't anything new. It's not pulling a rabbit out of your hat. We're just duplicating what other jurisdictions across the province have. But I'll hand it over to Minister Crawford.
Yeah, thank you very much. And just reiterating what the Premier had said, this legislation was long overdue for a change. It was written in 1988, so it was very outdated. It was written well before cell phones, well before cloud computing, well before WhatsApp. So very, very outdated legislation. I should have everybody know that over 95% of what you're able to access now, you will still be able to access. So decisions, which is the most critical part of what we do, are openly transparent and public. So that is available for anybody through the public service, and that will continue to be. There will continue to be oversight by the Privacy Commissioner, by the Auditor General, et cetera. So nothing's really changing on that front. What we are doing is ensuring cabinet confidentiality. We're aligning with the majority of jurisdictions in the rest of Canada, and we're also ensuring that foreign countries, foreign companies, which have been taking advantage of our openness through predatory information gathering, will no longer be able to. So we will do what it takes to protect the people of Ontario.
Thank you.
I think you're being too politically correct. We got to protect ourselves against the communist Chinese that are infiltrating our country, Canada, the U.S., everything into our education system, into high-tech companies. That's who we have to protect from, too. So it's serious. It's absolutely serious.
I'd like to just follow up. You both mentioned in Friday's press conference, you mentioned the advent of, for example, cell phones, email, and cloud computing technologies as part of the reason for the need to update these freedom of information laws. Could you just explain what is unique about these technologies that's added to?
Fair enough. Well, thank you for the question. It's very simple. Again, we're going to follow the federal government. Try to FOI minister of federal government. You can't. Try to do it to the Premier of Saskatchewan. You can't. Or Quebec. Or I could name all the provinces. What we're doing is just modernizing it, bringing it up to date. And as Minister Crawford said, 95% will be available. But when it comes to people's personal conversations, that they need help and they tell personal stories. You know, I'm not a gossip magazine. I've been doing this since 2010. People messaging myself. They used to message my brother. By the way, no one in the entire world, being in my position, gives out their cell number. And they don't want that information spread all over the front page of the media. It's simple as that. Have some respect for the people that they can call their elected officials, and it's going to be confidential. They would lose their mind. I'd probably be getting lawsuits right, left, and center from everyone. How dare you release my health records? You know, how dare you release personal information I gave you? I'm not releasing it. I've kept that oath that I was sworn to from the day I got elected, and I'm going to continue doing that from the day I'm out of politics.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This will be the last reporter.
Mr. Premier, Josh Moreno, CTV News. I'm just wondering, you touched on a little bit during your speech. I'm wondering if you could expand on a little bit the request to let people carry and use pepper spray. Is this something that citizens are pushing for right now?
Yeah, they are. What I understand, it's quite popular. But matter of fact, it's happening right now. Let's be honest. There's a whole bunch of people out there with pepper spray. But, you know, people feel vulnerable. Maybe I'm a little biased because I have 4 girls and my wife that do not feel safe walking at night. It's as simple as that. Can we give them something to defend themselves, to get away? 100%. Because people, I'll speak for Toronto and the GTHA, people aren't feeling safe out there. They're hearing about home invasions. They're hearing about not being safe on the subways. They're hearing that people are just walking through stores, costing us $4.5 billion of theft. Just, you know, what is Ontario and Canada coming to? Like, imagine that, just going in to a, I don't know, Best Buy, a Home Depot, a Walmart with a cart and just walking out. Has nothing to do with pepper spray, but we're going to take care of that problem too. We're going to have proper security that can actually arrest people, because these poor security guards too are sitting there and saying, I'm helpless. Or walking into the LCBO with a cart and walking out. This has to stop. It starts with petty crime like that. Then it gets more serious. I had a community meeting with some folks at my house over the weekend. They're terrified to be left at home. Their wives and their kids are terrified to be left at home because there's home invasions happening, kicking doors in. 4 or 5 guys walk in with guns. One guy just got shot in the leg trying to protect his family. We need to use every tool that you have at home to protect your family. And that's what we need to do. So we need to make it legal, and that's up to the federal government. If you care about securing communities, care about women walking alone, approve this. Approve DNA, too, sampling. For sexual assault, someone gets sexually assaulted, you could solve the crime pretty quick like that if we had DNA from these criminals. I'm just sick and tired of all the violence and the criminals and the crime that's happening. Our country has changed over the last 5 years. It's unacceptable, and we have to rein it in really, really quick. And unfortunately, the federal government controls the criminal code. I'll do everything in my power to exercise, the rights of the people, the charter rights of the people, instead of the charter rights of these criminals that continue being let out of jail. So we're going to streamline these court cases. We're going to get it out there, and there's going to be accountability right from the judges all the way down. So as you can tell, and then, it's not just me. You talk to anyone. This country's changed big time in the last 5 years, but we need to get back to our roots by being proud Ontario, proud Ontarians, proud Canadians, because enough is enough of these criminals. I'd lock them up and throw the key away. We're going to have to build more jails, by the way, Michael.
Officially, last question. This is something that the feds said could lead to more violence and not less. And just final thoughts on that for the pepper spray.
The Fed said that? Okay, so here we go. Why the Fed should get their act together and get the bail reform that every single province, and I led the charge with all the other premiers, rather than dilly-dallying along, being scared, let's not hurt the criminals. God forbid we might lose a couple votes from criminals. You got to be kidding me. Wake up, smell the coffee, and this pepper spray may save someone's life. What do you say about that? You don't want to protect women. You don't want to protect children. You don't want to protect homes. God forbid you protect homes. Give me a break. Wake up and smell the coffee. It's ridiculous. That's what I can't stand. That attitude right there. You got to tell me who said that.
That concludes our press conference. If I could get all the speakers to stay up there for a photo, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think the live streaming, there's lots of publication ban for bail hearings. So do you think that that's going to work?
Well, we're going to move forward with live streaming. Everyone needs to be held accountable, but thank you.
All right, that concludes our press conference. Thanks.